Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room. My name is Louis, and I'm joined today by our good friend James. How you doing, James?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah, trying to get back into the swing of work. So this is just a nice little break for me at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, you say a nice little break. It's not necessarily the best news, depending on your standpoint or what you were expecting. Lots of stuff coming out of the Everton press conference, I believe it was. Jurgen Klopp asked, of course, more about transfers and the transfer window than the actual Everton game, by the sounds of all of the quotes coming out from Twitter and what have you. If you are just joining, please do like the video and subscribe and get involved in the live chat as well. Let us know your thoughts if you've seen any of those comments, but we will, of course, run you through them as well. So plenty to talk about in terms of the press conference, but also what I initially wanted to talk about was a few potential targets and signings being ruled out from different journalists up and down the country. We've got Pletigol talking about, well, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, talking about Lima, Conrad Lima from one of the Red Bull clubs. It was apparently thanks, Dan. It was apparently someone that we were highly interested in, somewhat of a pressing machine, James, but it's now been pretty much confirmed that RB are not looking to get rid of him today or in this window.
Yeah, it was a strange one, really, because when Klopp defined the midfielder he was looking for, he was saying he was looking for someone that can play 6 and someone that can play 8. And Lima was kind of that one that really fit that mould, that kind of played, with all the names linked and everyone that's been sort of connected. He was the name that kind of made sense the most, in terms of what Klopp was saying for the two positions that he wanted to ensure that he had covered. So the fact that he's been ruled out kind of is the most obvious one for those two categories. So it was a bit strange for me that one's gone already, because I was thinking Klopp already had this 90% of the way there to say something publicly, but this press conference lets me sort of know that it's nowhere near completed yet. And I thought Lima was probably one of the front runners, if we were honest, just due to the fact that he said 6 and 8. And Lima was the most obvious one for that.
It felt like kind of the most realistic of most of the targets we've been linked with as well. Doesn't have that Premier League fee, certainly not an English fee, although we're not linked to any English players. So to have that one ruled out quite emphatically is a bit of a bummer at this late stage, added on to what's been said in the press conferences. It doesn't paint a good picture, and it kind of throws up into the air why those comments last week were made about, and this kind of comes back to how genuine were those comments. Like, I think a lot of people picked up on the sort of sarcasm that was within it, the whole, like, you guys were right, I was wrong. But that's what I mean. Do we always have to think of everything Klopp says in a press conference as like this well thought out 4D chess, or it's just heat of the moment stuff that he's saying, isn't it?
Nobody gets everything perfect. Nobody says the right thing in every situation. You could go through anyone and you could always find instances of someone who said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Now, what's interesting is we all take written quotes and take them as gospel, but we never have implied context or tone within them. We look at these written statements and we go, okay, well, that must mean this, because we're inferring what it means, as opposed to listening to the entire press conference, which most people haven't done, listening to the entire tone, listening to the tone of questioning, looking at how it's frustrating him, and then building a picture that we're informed by. We read these individual quotes and build our context from those. Now, at the same time, with him taking a lot of questions about a midfielder in this press conference, we do have to probably infer that he is being honest, that he is trying to get somebody. It's just something seems to have hit a wall, something seems to have struggled, something doesn't seem to be getting over the line. I think a 9-0 is the worst thing for people who are adamant we needed to sign a player. But is very much a Liverpool style of, right, let's hit it hard and let's show everyone that you need to be scared of us. So there's perks and, there's...
You've just frozen up there a little bit. Oh, no, you're back. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's always nice to have differing opinions on conversations like this. And I'm sure there'll be people in the live chat who maybe disagree, but I think what you said about, the quotes, etc., is kind of spot on. Like, not only do we often take it as gospel, but we kind of trick ourselves into believing that everything that's been said is like it has like a divine underlying message to it, when he's just been asked a question, and in the heat of the moment he said something, and if he had 24 hours to prepare for these things, I'm sure he would say something very different. And that's just worth remembering. I'm not saying that anybody's opinion is wrong or right. I'm just saying it's worth remembering. But let's talk about some of those quotes, and through that lens, we can kind of swing back around and so what we really think he means by that. Jurgen Klopp asked if Liverpool are still in the market for a new signing. So the closer we get to the last minute, the more unlikely it gets. So that's how it is. We are not out. I couldn't tell you a name even if I wanted to. It's difficult. We'll see. There's time. I mean, to be honest, that doesn't sound like too much different from anything he said. But the reality is that the clock is vastly ticking down, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a positioning statement, isn't it? Klopp needs the fans behind the club. The club need to be behind Klopp. And you need to position things to go, well, we're trying. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So that is a preparation statement for us fans to go, this might not happen. I'm sorry, but it might not. And that's all right. That is what it is. What it is. We can do what we can do. We can try and get it to where we want to go. I mean, just look at, and I know I'm going into one of the other players that we've been linked with, but just look at the Ruben Neves situation. You got Bruno Lage saying this 99% certain he's going to stay here. It's absolutely, set in stone. And then you've got Neves going out, I miss Champions League football. It's the premier football competition. I want to be involved in that competition. I'm sorry, if that's not a come and get me plea to Liverpool, because we've demonstrated some level of interest, I don't know what is. But it gets harder and harder to make these things happen at the timelines that we need to make it happen. And there's some of these players, and I use Neves as an example, who are not going to throw up such a stink that they sully their reputation in their existing club just to get a move to Liverpool. Because one, it's not the sort of reputation Klopp's looking for in a player. It's not the sort of thing he wants to do. This is sometimes the problem with the fact that we want to act professionally. We want to act with, good and honest intentions to everyone. We can create a situation where it just doesn't happen because we don't push hard enough. The player doesn't push hard enough because we all want to be professional.
Peter, thank you for getting involved in the live chat. Says Milinkovic-Savic is available, Barella is available, and many more available. So they can't tell us there's nobody. Well, interestingly, the two players that you mentioned, I'd probably say aren't available. Milinkovic-Savic was actually one of those players mentioned yesterday. If I can just find it. His agent has said the decision has been made. He will stay at Lazio this summer. Now, you could genuinely believe that any amount of money can get any player away from their club, but is that worth doing for Milinkovic-Savic, someone who's been linked to Premier League clubs since the dawn of time, from my recollection? He's always in and around, Man United's transfer windows, and he's been linked to us a few times as well. And this season won't be the end of that either. Remy says, I don't think so. Klopp and Liverpool are not going to buy a player for the sake of it. So talking about, that preparation, sorry, what did you call it again? The statement that Klopp made?
Preparation statement for fans.
Yeah, preparation statement. I mean,
sounds like some sort of cream, doesn't it? No. Get the preparation statement out.
Yeah. I mean, bearing in mind sort of the anger amongst some quadrants of the Liverpool fan base, was it worth coming out and saying that, or would he have actually been better off continuing down that line, which it seemed to be going of, no, do you know what, I'm happy with what we've got, and then if something happens, it's a pleasant surprise, but at least we're kind of prepared. This feels like it's almost, everyone was going like that towards the end of the window. Oh, okay, looks like we're not getting anyone. I'm annoyed, but what can you do? And then
they weren't going like that, though, were they? It was like that.
Oh, yeah, mate. I mean, there's always extremes, but I felt like the general attitude was maybe like, I'm still pissed off we're not signing anyone, but like whatever. I felt like there was some people were starting to just lay off it a little bit, but now it was Klopp makes those comments and it's skyrocketed back up, and now we're getting to that stage where the window's closing and it's just the anger's building because Klopp has come out and said something, and the club necessarily isn't backing him in doing that.
I mean, we're part of a few group chats together, Louis. There's a few things that we've seen online. You know, I've seen statements like it's an embarrassment Henderson's played for this club, which is a ridiculous statement. You know, the things we're getting, and this is how extreme it was getting. We're getting a very short-term memory about how implosive everyone was going. So Klopp's made a statement, and this theoretically could have happened. Klopp's made a statement that's made everyone go, oh, something's happened. Okay, so now we're going to get behind the team. Oh, bang, 9-0. Oh, okay, well, they're still trying to get a midfielder. Yeah, we are. Okay, well, end of the window comes. Oh, we've not been able to do it. We'll sod it. We've got to get on with it. But it stopped that entire rotting aggressiveness that our fans were showing. You know, we need to boycott FSG out. FSG, you saw the tweet I replied to, which FSG have ruined our football club. Like, people were going to these extremes. People were being so overly aggressive and entitled and privileged about having one of the greatest managers and teams of all time that they just were getting themselves in such a stew that maybe this Klopp statement just stopped everyone in their tracks, gave him a little bit of time, get to the end of the transfer window. Oh, it didn't happen. Get behind the team again. And then suddenly it all goes all over again. So maybe not. There's a few things that I would like us to have a midfielder, but I still, you know, I'm strong in the opinion that we had that midfield that got us to every single final in every single game. Yes, they're a year older. Some of them are a year older for the better, some year older for the worse. But we still have to remember what we accomplished.
I think that's actually a pretty a positive way of looking at it, and I think that is a decent point. That that comment, and you know, having John Henry turn up at the stadium for the Bournemouth game, it got everyone off of that, you know, negativity train. Not saying that they're wrong to be negative necessarily, but it got everyone behind. We got that amazing result against Bournemouth. Maybe there'll be a few more days of pain if we don't sign somebody, and there will be a lot of frustration. But at least the team's seemingly up and kicking again, and you know, maybe we beat Newcastle tomorrow, which I think is going to be a horrible game. Like, I'm not looking forward to that at all. Newcastle, I know they didn't do well on the weekend, but coming off the back of putting up a good performance against Man City, it's going to be a tough one. And then, of course, the Merseyside derby on Saturday. I mean, in a week's time, you know, with so many injuries already, but with potentially 9 points back on the board again, there could be some positivity, and it all maybe perhaps stemmed from Klopp's ability with his words to kind of just stem the tide for a little bit, give his team time to sort themselves out. I don't know. Maybe we're looking too much into that. I don't know. Hyla, thank you very much, has just shared the other part of the press conference I wanted to talk about. Klopp said, "Let me say it like this. From time to time, I'll be ready to risk a bit more, but how I said, I don't decide. That's fine." So that was in regards to sort of the relationship with FSG and the spending that the club do. It's one of those things where he's highlighted what he would like to do. Is that necessarily a veiled dig at the ownership? Is that him trying to separate himself from the negativity that surrounds the ownership?
So a wonderful privilege of working, you know, as a senior director for a business and running my own business. And when I was working for someone else's business, I would be, let's say I get a marketing budget of £200,000. I would be willing to risk a little bit more if you give me £250,000, £300,000 to do more with it. But I do not have all the pressure that then comes with owning a business going, well, would I be prepared to risk that amount of money for potential return? And this is where being run as a business can sometimes be difficult, because I, as an employee and as a senior employee and as a respected employee, would be prepared to take that risk. And now, do the owners think less of me because they're not prepared to give me that money to take a risk? No. It means that they have a model, they have a structure that protects all staff, all employees and everything, and the future of their investment and everything that goes with it. So that's to that side. Now, if it's my business, I become a little bit more stringent, because it could all implode and cost me everything. Now, that's not necessarily the same with a football club. Sometimes, obviously, but you have to look at it from a Klopp as an employee wanting to do the best that he possibly can. And that's his angle. That's what he looks at. The owners look at it from a sustainability, from a progress, from a retention. And this sounds like a very FSG supportive type statement from me. It's not. I do think they should spend more and take more calculated risks. But the reason they've got investments, the reason they've got money in their club, the reason like Redbird Capital got involved is because they had a model they could demonstrate that was sustainable, that would help them do X, Y, and Z. So for those investors to invest, they have to fulfill their current requirements. So they're not going to change. If they're going to get more investors and get more parts of the club sold over time, they're not going to change their investment model because that would attract different investors. So nothing's going to change from an FSC business perspective. And yes, Klopp would like more money because when I was, in charge of X, Y, and Z, would like more money to do other things. I'm not going to turn it down if someone offers it. Nah, don't want it. Unless I didn't think it was relevant. Someone might say, oh, do you want to put a load of money into TikTok? I'd be like, well, let's be face it, no one watches that in education. So no, I don't want to put money in TikTok. So you might turn players down and do things like that, but let's just treat it as it is. They run a business. He's trying to win football games. Their objectives are different, and us as fans just want everything to be won. And I love it, Vernon. I'm not, no, but I'm just telling you as it is, from my perspective, having been in both positions. It might not be the biggest fan statement I can make, but I can only tell you that that's what's happening, and that's what that statement means from Klopp. I would like to do more. I would like to take more risks, but it's not his risk. It's their risk, and it's their decision at the end of the day.
Jen, thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, Jude, you're coming. Jen still maintains hope. Jen, is he coming this window or next window? When is he coming? Please let us know. Yeah, so I think you've shined a bit of a light on the other side, although I'm not sure that many people
Remy's with me.
Will want to hear it. Yeah. No, yeah, Remy's with you. You're spot on about the balance between FSG and Klopp. The problem with the fans is that they don't understand the model, nor do they want to. But okay, let's come from a fan perspective. Should we care about the model? Should we care about the model when we are maybe not the richest club in the world, but we've certainly got the money? I mean, why couldn't we take a risk?
There are more clubs in the graveyard, Louis, than there are at the top of the pyramid. Just look down the leagues. Portsmouth, Sunderland, Nottingham Forest have only just got back in after how long a hiatus. Leeds just got back in. The Sheffield clubs. If the next 10 years, when you look at the growth, when streaming services get hold of football, the amount of money a club's going to make is going to be astronomical. When Amazon decide they want the entire Premier League, they're going to get it. Let's be honest. When they make that decision, it's going to happen. And they're going to sell subscriptions to your individual clubs, and you're going to pay it, and they're going to make an absolute killing. Now, can an FSG afford to take a risk, get relegated, and miss that critical point of exposure? Because that is the only reason Man United have a bigger commercial revenue growth than Liverpool. Because at the point of big Sky explosion, United were at the top of the pyramid. It's horrible to say it like that, but that's the truth of it. The next big evolution is globalized streaming service rights, and it's going to take the Premier League up another level. That's why they got involved in all that shit to do with the Super League. I shouldn't say that at this time of the day, should I? No. But that's they're not wanting to miss on the big next jump, which is going to take their £325 million investment that have already turned into $3.5 billion, because that's probably what Liverpool are worth, and take it to a 7, 8, 9 billion, because then all their investors are going to love them.
Yeah, I hear you. Hyla says every business owner knows that you have to keep investing in your company, otherwise it will devalue. Football players get a year older, and especially in a squad with so many injuries. I guess what you're going to say to that is, well, they have invested in the stadium, the training facilities, staff.
Facilities, youth development, young players. Just because you don't go out and spend 100 million, I mean, you're not investing. Just there's clever investment, there's stupid investment. Look, I still think we should take more of a risk. I'm not of the opinion saying that we shouldn't. This isn't me saying, we've just got to be happy with the scraps that FSG threw off the table. All I'm trying to tell you is that view of that view from up there in the ivory tower, back in America. That's how they see it. They want to see 7 billion on the table before they get rid of us, probably. But no, I get it, and it pisses me off as much. I've done it again. It annoys me as much as it does everybody else. But I see what they're trying to do. I see why they want to do it. But us as fans, and me as a fan, I'm always going to want one more signing. I'm always going to say, why can't we make one more signing? I'm always going to feel that way because that's my job.
Okay. So for anyone watching or just joining and listening to James, let's clarify. James is speaking, giving that other side. It's not necessarily his belief, in case anyone still thinks he's on FSG's payroll or anything. But let's just run with this. You're backing FSG. How dare you? You're a traitor to the club, and I am a fan. Why can't we? We haven't risked it for a while. Yes, we signed Nunes, but we made all the money back. We've been promised year after year that we would strengthen the midfield. And this year was meant to be about signing a key midfielder and maybe Jude Bellingham. That's been pushed back a year. Why we should go out and sign somebody now? How is that going to, risk us falling out? That's not signing at midfielder now. Even if he turns into a flop, is not going to relegate us. Why are we not going out and signing someone for here and now?
This is the mix between the Klopp element and the FSG element, because there's midfielders that we could sign. And FSG have already sanctioned to sign, haven't they? Tuchmeni was a player that everyone was signed off to try and get. But Real Madrid got him. So this is where the balance between Klopp having to be the right player and FSG having to be commercially the right player, i.e. that fits within the Moneyball model that Liverpool play under, not necessarily the old one that everyone still refers to, where there's a resale value or there's enough sustainable return on investment before it happens. So is there the right player available at the right price to do the right commercial and everything like that? I would say Ruben Neves, without a shadow of the doubt, seems to fit that mold for me. I want him more than any other player that we've been linked with. But can they get that deal done? Everyone keeps listing, Paqueta. Oh, my God, I think he's a great player. But there's a reason we don't want him. Where we should be shopping in the top 1% of top 1%, and we're trying to find bargains within that. It's weird, isn't it? So there's players that we're prepared to sign, and there's players we're not prepared to sign. Jude Bellingham's the one we want. Now, from an FSG perspective, Jude Bellingham will create an absolute thunderbolt in terms of revenue generation. He will cost us a fortune, and we can't make it happen this season, despite what we've heard, multiple attempts. Charlie will still tell you if you put enough money on the table, it'll happen. But then there's a point is when is too much money on the table for the return on investment and the balance and everything like that. So there's whole different recent arguments. And I can guarantee everyone sat around that table having that discussion will say, well, why don't we just put 130 million on the table for Jude? And someone will go, well, that's too much for that particular point in time. It needs to be this, or we need to do this. And there's a whole raft of arguments going on about these players. But we're probably talking, we talk about 20 players, say. They're probably talking about 5 and making 5 happen. And they're probably speaking to all 5 clubs. They're probably trying to poke holes, see where things are, making the calls every day. Not just, hi, is he for sale now? No, okay. Not that type of call, but still trying to make it happen. And it's just, different players fit different things. You could just you could do a panic buy. I look at Nottingham Forest; they've made so many panic buys. This is 18 players, unprecedented. All it takes is one bad apple. There's a lot of reports at the moment saying that when Gerrard took the captaincy off Ming, there was so many Ming fans and sympathisers within that dressing room that ripped the dressing room apart from Steven Gerrard, and that's why he's going to end up losing his job.
I mean, that was the big thing about Ronaldo, wasn't it? With the captaincy and Harry Maguire, and I could imagine, which players stuck by Harry Maguire. The likes of McTominay and probably Fred, and then you've got Ronaldo coming in, obviously one of the best players in the world, and he probably should have been more in consideration for captaincy than Maguire. But instantly, you cause that rift and divide between two people, and the collateral damage is insane. I completely agree. Thank you to everybody who is watching. Please do like and subscribe. We'll be back live again at 7:30 for an actual preview of the Liverpool-Everton game, so do stick around for that. You mentioned sort of the difference between Klopp and FSG. There's a lot of, fan opinion on exactly what Klopp thinks, what FSG think, how intertwined their opinions are or how different they are. I'm very much of the belief that without these injuries, Klopp doesn't change his opinion on midfielders. So is Klopp really not on our side as much as we think we are, as opposed to FSG? Sorry, he's not as different to FSG as many would like to think.
Yes. So Klopp, to a degree, has taken a job with FSG. This is the model you're going to be working under. This is how you're going to be doing it. Yeah, this is perfect. This is my preferred way of working. Blah blah blah. Merge happens, and all that would have got renegotiated during contract negotiations. Can we still actively work together? I mean, just look at the statements from Bournemouth this morning that talked about change and culture and everyone on the same page, and how if everyone's not on the same page, it can't work when they fired Scott Parker. So, yeah, I think both of them are on the same page. I think Klopp has made mistakes. Just look at the centre-back crisis of a couple of years ago. I think he will openly say he made a mistake during that period. Does that mean he's any less valuable as a coach, any less valuable as a manager, any less valuable as who he is? No. He's still absolute top 1% of world managers. He's made a mistake. He may have made a statement in a press conference that is a mistake. He's going to make them. He's human. He is not this big 6'4" German with a perfect smile and perfect statements every single time he comes out to the press. I think that at some point they're going to disagree. But like in any great partnership, you will have disagreement moments. You'll have things that you want to do differently, and it's how you negotiate those elements. Liverpool are in a situation where they do need a midfielder because of circumstance. Some of their critical midfielders seem to be breaking down more often than they should. And we already can see as fans that the next part of Liverpool's evolution is to refresh the midfield. So we're getting ahead of ourselves probably sooner than Klopp and FSG would want us to say we want to change it all now, because nobody plays FIFA until a player's 33. They sell them when they hit 30, don't they? And just bring in the 22-year-old and go, okay, well, I've changed my team. So we're just impatient. But rightly so. Rightly so, should be getting excited about new signings. It's a big, exciting thing. But we are being impatient, and we should be impatient. Their job is to manage us and get us behind the team with great performances and et cetera, et cetera.
Brian says, I feel like our transfer team forgets loans exist. If Jude is the ideal for next summer, then just loan a player now. Well, I'll be interested to hear who you think we could realistically loan who would improve and or be a solid member of the team. I think that's interesting if you've got any suggestions for that. Hyler again says Liverpool have a net spend of minus £4.59 million this season. Is that the sign of a title contender? Last year, Liverpool had, on average, one of the oldest squads in the Premier League. Well, I will rebuke that somewhat by following up that Man City this year have won pretty much the net spend championship. They are clear and away this season, I believe. So I don't necessarily think that's a relatively, a relative description, but I guess over the last few years we've consistently had a low net spend, so I guess that does make sense. But Liverpool having one of the oldest squads in the Premier League, we released a video this morning actually covering that, so do go check that out after this stream. But
we still made a loss.
It's a fine margin, isn't it, of when we and how slowly we start to move that team about, because we've already begun that. We've got Jota in, we've got Nunes, and we've got Carvalho and Elliott in the midfield. But for some people, as you said, it's not enough quickly enough.
Yeah, but this is the thing. We talk about net spend and we look through that prism of the only way we make money is by players bought, and the only way we lose money is by players sold. And that's the only prism that we will look through. Fundamentally, Liverpool made a loss as a business. Now, the owners aren't taking money out to pay for their holidays and their whatever the Glaziers do or anything like that, but we made a loss. Now we're recovering from COVID and things like that, but we are in a situation where we made a loss. Only 4.8 million, I think it was. So let's not just net spend transfers to transfers. What have we invested? What have we spent? What have we done? What has it cost us? What are we putting on? And what is our P&L? Our year end is more important than our net spend. We're using net spend as an argument to point out why Man City are just absolute diabolical. That's so high, that's owned by their owner, who just funnels money through sports washing through their club like it's like nobody's business, and therefore you can't look at the true value of their accounts and have value to it. Whereas Liverpool's, you can. We can look at our accounts and have true value to it. So it's, net spend doesn't give the true picture, but unfortunately net spend is the only true picture we have against those who are sports washing money. So it's a hard one. And I'm with you, Helio, because it's a really clean metric at the same time. But when Man City starts selling players to New York City for record amounts of money and et cetera, then it'll start to sports wash even more.
Black Drago Ninja, a good name, says, can't we Liverpool fans protest? What is the club trying to achieve? I want a full-scale protest before it's too late. I mean...
But what's the protest for?
It's a transfer, isn't it? Like, it's getting a midfield player in this season. Like, what are we as you say, James, what are we protesting? This isn't the Glazers. This isn't, letting the stadium go into disrepair. This isn't, although spending it on the wrong players consistently, purely for, how good their marketing will be and how much money they can bring into the club. What would it be a protest for? I don't really understand it. It's a strange one, James, that does feel like it's creeping in and becoming a more common thought.
People are FSG out at the moment because we're not spending money. Well, we're FSG out. We're not spending money. I'm FSG out. Great. Who do you want to come in? Who do you want to come in and own this club? Because I'll tell you what, I don't want the Saudi Arabians who kill people to build things and just play ignorance and then change my kit to a green and white flag kit. I don't want people that are doing illegal operations. I would rather be run by a business than a country who do deplorable things and get away with it. I'm sorry, some of you might not like it, but that's my true view. I would rather be run as a business and have unbelievable times occasionally than be run by something which breaches my ethics, try to dig my head in the sand and win something every year. It's a really hard, that's just my personal take on it. Some of you might be fine with it. It happens around the other side of the world, but these big clubs, your PSGs, your Man Cities, Newcastle, look at the number of people that died building those stadiums in Qatar. Compare it to UK construction stats. It is unreal. And I can't, in all good conscience, say that I would want that for my club. I can't. I'd hate it. So I would rather have this. I would rather have the owner of Amazon buy us. I'd take that. And I know if you dig deep enough on all companies, you can find dirt. But I'm all right with that. But yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to protest anything, it's someone in the chat said FSG are capitalist vultures. So I imagine they're an FSG outer, which is fine. Like that's
but they are. FSG are capitalist vultures. They're just very good at it.
But who is going to own this club? Who isn't? If you're going to protest anything, you protest football in general being fan ownership. That's worth protesting. Trying to get FSG out to get in someone from Saudi Arabia or someone like like another American family like the Glazers, who are 100 times worse than anything FSG have done. The Kroenke family looks like they're turning a new leaf now. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be a long-term thing or not, but everybody else in the Premier League, they're not spending enough or spending cleverly enough to catch up with the big boys. Man United have been spending up and around the most out of anyone for years on end, and are no closer to us than Newcastle are at the moment, really, in terms of quality or sustainability. So, do we need a midfielder? Yes. If we don't get one, is it, bloody start setting fire to things and throwing Molotovs in the streets and, waving flags but wearing the shirt? I don't want to be that. I don't want to be what Man United supporters were, where they were protesting the Glazers whilst wearing the shirts that they bought from the club. And then as soon as a new signing, Casemiro, walks by, oh, Casemiro, take my picture whilst we're out of this protest. And then, my team's actually winning today. I'm not going to do a walkout. I'm going to stay here and actually get behind the team all of a sudden. I don't want to be a part of that. And there's really nothing going on at this club that suggests it's anywhere near as serious as that.
Yeah, one suggestion I've got is if Liverpool are worth $3.5 billion, that a percentage of our ownership should be given to fans via shares. And here's the dog again. And we should be able to invest in our club, buy shares, and it pays off some of FSG and stuff like that, but we should be able to invest in our club, we should be able to buy shares in our club, and we should be able to do that. And I think a proportion of percentage of fan ownership and a seat at the table and how it should be done and how it should be run through a base of investment, which allows fans and members and people to buy a stake in the club and have their say. So I would quite like to see a level of fan ownership in the form of shares and whatever it is, so that we can get investment. It would give FSG some of what they want, and then our performance has a direct correlation to the value of our shares, meaning if it goes bad, we can invest a little bit more and upkeep of the club. So there is a fan model somewhere within this FSG model that we really could take advantage of. A bit like the 50+1 rule, Mike, but probably more 20 to 25% in the UK with some of our legal restrictions and stuff like that. But
the funny thing is, people would pretend that that's what they wanted if that was on the table. But as soon as they see that we still can't keep up with Man City money-wise, then that goes out the window again.
To a degree, yes, but I think one of the brilliance of Liverpool fans is when we're all in this together. And at this moment, we're not all in this together because we've got this ownership over here, we've got this manager over here, and we've got us in the middle. And I think a degree of fan ownership would bring us all together. It's financially plausible. It's a good investment for FSG. It's a good rebate for a lot of the investors that they've got, and it would theoretically bridge that gap because we all see the financial statements. We all see how much we've got to spend. We all have a say in the decisions that run this club. If Spirit of Shankly had a seat at the table on quite a regular basis, we would all feel a lot more comfortable. And there's these types of things that I think would really help us just stop this brattishness. And I call it brattishness because it's a period of time this club's never had, and we're acting like we have the God-given right to be at the top of the league, and we don't. So this is the best period that we've had, in my adult memory. I went through the whole Fowler McManaman years, just winning the odd cup. This is brilliant. And we need more of it, but we need to be involved in it a little bit more.
Well, you've heard it from two people who are probably, in the context of this whole debate and argument, pretty middle of the road. Yeah, just quite chilled out guys. But no, I think it's been a very interesting discussion again. Lots of stuff covered and plenty to have talked about. Whether you've agreed or not, thank you for being a part of the club. Thoughts on it? Fabian Ruiz joining PSG for £22 million. Right player, right price for Liverpool.
He's the most statistically like Thiago in the market. Like, when you look at all the stats and the players that are like other players, the closest to Thiago is Fabian Ruiz. If he's 22 million, we're devastated.
To complete PSG move today, estimated 25 million euros. Yeah, so that's kind of put a spanner in the works.
Oh, that kills it at the end, doesn't it?
For a lot of stuff we just talked about. But FSG out. Sodom. The protest is on next Monday.
Let's just ignore the last hour.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody who has joined. Whether you've agreed or disagreed, it's honestly been great to get a feel of everyone's opinions and everything you've had to say. Lots of good and bad suggestions in the live chat. So please do make sure you stick around. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We'll be back again, as I said, 7:30 p.m. With a few more of us for a proper preview of the Newcastle game. Sorry, I said Everton earlier. It's Newcastle versus Liverpool. So please stick around for that 7:30 p.m. We can have a chat about some actual football rather than all this budgeting and marketing cobblers. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, James, for joining me, and we'll see you at 7:30. Take care.
See you later, guys.